It's time to connect to intuition, delve into nature, cross the hidden veil, embrace the universe, unfold your myth. First, there was one beautiful deck by Linzi Silverman. Now, there are two. Per the description for the deck, the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot is designed to connect with magic without and within. Through the medium of collage, an otherworldly array of goddess figures light upon the mystical landscapes, replete with symbolic flora and fauna, channeling divine feminine energy and inviting us to realize its surrounding potential. Digital and hand-drawn illustrations reference ideas of creation and destruction, those spiraling cycles of shifts in knowing. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid. All right, we're going to answer the question. Did you miss out on anything by not purchasing the indie edition of the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot? Was there anything extraordinary that you missed out on? We're going to take a look at everything. Production values, the cards, were there any changes to the cards? So let's get into it. So right off the bat, it looks like the artwork on the boxes were pretty much kept exactly the same so far as I can see. This is the indie edition. This is the new mass market release. Now, I will say that the new mass market release is a little bit taller in the box. I might be imagining it, but it seems a little bit bigger, and we'll see why that is. We'll compare card size. But if we turn it on its side, it's got the same artwork. Let's check the back. Minor differences on the back. So the artwork has remained exactly the same. A little bit more color saturation in the mass market with the hands. You can notice that. I hope my phone is picking it up. The UPC code is been made a little bit different, and there is a price on the side here on the mass market. And here you have a little bit, you have the description of the deck, and in the mass market release, it's up on top. So, and you've got her little symbol. Oh, there's an added publisher logo here. So the artwork basically has remained the same. And the UPC code has just been made a little bit bigger. Now, as you can see, it's still a two-piece thumb cutout box, which is really good. Let's take a look at the inside. Okay, this is wonderful because as you can see, everything has been kept the same as far as the box. Now, again, this is the indie version. This is the mass market version. And I will say again that this box seems a little bit bigger. Yeah, mass market is a little bit taller. And we'll see if there's been a change in the card size in just a sec, but everything so far has basically remained the same. Moving on to the guidebooks very quickly. It looks like the same, again, the same design, though albeit the art is a little bit larger in the new mass market edition. And let's measure up the books. They seem about the same size. Now, I will say the mass market seems a little bit thicker, and we'll examine why that is. Okay, right off the bat, I can feel that the paper quality is different. The indie version has a little bit more gloss, and the guidebook in the mass market edition is matte and a thicker kind of cardstock. The inside cover is the same, as you can see. Now let's take a look at the table of contents. I'm just quickly scanning what's included and the page numbers. And yes, it's exactly the same. Now, I think because this book in the mass market seems a little bit thicker, I think that's just because of the difference in the paper quality or the cover cardstock. Now, just flipping through the guidebook of the mass market here, just flipping through so you can see it. There's no pictures in the guidebook of any kind, no artwork of the cards. And that was the same for here, the indie edition as well. So you basically get the same guidebook. Here we have the card backs, and they kept the same design, the same aesthetic. I will say that on the backs, the black on the indie version seems just a tad bit more saturated, but really it's hardly noticeable, and I could be imagining it. It just seems that way to me. The cardstock is pretty much identical, but I will show you what the biggest difference is. Okay, the biggest difference right off the bat is that the indie edition came with gold gilding and the mass market does not. Now, some of you don't like metallic edging, so this will be a plus for you. The fact that the mass market is not gilded, and yet the cardstock is very, very similar, if not exactly the same. Yeah, I don't feel a big difference in the cardstock at all. Now, we're going to measure the size. It is the exact same size, indie and mass market edition. Now, I will say, while I'm touching it, that the mass market feels just a tad bit more matte to me, but they're virtually the same. All right, so let's get into the most important part. Let's flip these cards over and see if there's any differences to the artwork or the cards themselves. So we'll do a musical flip through and I'll meet you on the other side. hope you enjoyed that musical flip through. Now let me know in the comments below if you noticed any differences in the imagery of the cards. Now, it was kind of hard for me, you know, I'm looking at my phone and trying to flip the cards. But the things that I did notice, all right, with the indie edition, you get much more of an image and it's brought out to the front more, whereas the mass market, it's set farther back. And I believe that is because of formatting. Now you notice that the border on the mass market edition here is just a fraction larger than in the indie edition. Okay, so I'm going to hold this up and tell me if I'm imagining it. And I don't think I am, because look at the bottom of the card here. Look how much border there is compared to the indie edition, has much less. They kept pretty much the font the same, and they kept the same aesthetics. You know, they kept the number at the top, or when you get to the minors, it's the suit, a picture of the suit. Another thing that I think in the mass market that you get is a little bit, even if ever so slightly, a little bit of a deeper color saturation, which is noticeable with sometimes the pinks, the lavenders, the reds, oranges, but sometimes it's noticeable and sometimes it's not. Now I do get a little bit more of a matte feeling. I think the cardstock is just ever so slightly more matte, because the blacks, if you can see with the borders, the black in the indie edition seems more saturated. Okay, I could be imagining it, but let me know if you're picking that up, if my phone is picking that up. But I don't see where the cards have been renamed. I don't see that, you know, anything different in the imagery has been changed, except it's not really noticeable in this card, but the artwork is a little bit more upfront and close and personal in the indie edition, and it's set just ever so slightly farther back. And I think that's formatting, just because the mass market edition has the slightly larger borders. Also, I will say the header at the bottom, it seems to be a little bit more white and a little bit more of an ivory in the indie. So more white in the mass market and more of an ivory in the indie version. Yeah, let me know what you're picking up. I do think, let's see, with this image, it's negligible, but you can see how she looks a little bit more up front, whereas the mass market, the figure is set farther back. Now, if you're new to my channel, or if you're new to tarot, or you're just seeing this deck for the very first time, you're going to notice that the cards have been renamed. The court cards have totally been renamed, and many of the major arcana have been renamed. And I do have an unboxing, my original unboxing of the deck when it was released, and I will link that up in the cards above and or in the description box below, so you can see that. I believe I might have gone over that, you know, what cards have been renamed. But just to keep this video short and sweet, because it's just a side-by-side comparison, I will refer you to that video if you want to see a more in-depth overview, you know, of the deck itself and the renaming of the cards. So to wrap this side-by-side comparison up, did you miss anything by not getting the indie version of this deck? I would say absolutely not. They did a bang-up job, and let me see, the publisher is Ulysses Press. So I don't know of this publisher to be a big tarot deck publisher. They could be. Let me know if you know any other decks that were produced by Ulysses Press. But they did a wonderful job of keeping pretty much the same aesthetic of the indie version. The biggest difference, I would say, is that, you know, the indie version has gilding and the mass market does not. But to some of you, that could be a plus. And if anything, it has saved you some coin. The indie version originally, I think it retailed, let's see, when you bought it, it was about $50 to $55, then plus shipping. And the mass market is going from $22 to $24, the last I saw on Amazon. I think that's what I pre-ordered it for, maybe $22. It could be a little bit more, a few bucks more, but really, you get basically the same cardstock. The imagery hasn't been changed. Same content in the guidebook. It's just, I mean, it's wonderful. And this deck, I love it so much. If you love female-centric decks, I'd say this would be a wonderful one to add to your collection. So I want to hear all your thoughts. What do you think? Have you noticed something that I didn't pick out while I was flipping through the cards? So with that, let me know all your thoughts, and I'll leave you to get on with your beautiful day. Bye for now.